welcome to One More Thing podcast. This morning I'm joined with Pastor Larry Baucom.
Good morning.
Good morning. Man, we're in full Christmas mode around here, from everything the production team is doing to the reminders they're about to send out about what to expect and the service times. And we kicked off a new series, Christmas Fog.
Yeah.
And I remember when you brought it up in sort of the planning meeting. You know, we always talk about Christmas busyness and Christmas chaos, but why? What's the correlation to fog with what this series is about?
Well, I think for me that when the weather comes up, it gives you a few ideas. And I primarily remember North Carolina. In the morning, we'd leave to go home in the summer, and typically in North Carolina, the fog would set in, and it burned off about 9 o'clock. So we used to not travel until. Didn't want to leave before 9 because you're driving through a lot of fog. And you're going along and everything's clear, and then you hit just a mountain pass down low a little bit in a valley, and you're fogged in. But I think that so many times at Christmas time, the fog sets in on us. And maybe it's loss. Maybe you remember dad or mom or, or grandma, grandpa, or loss of a kid or brother. And it's very easy that the fog rolls in. So I think that one of the things that burns off fog is light and warmth and heat. I mean, if your windshield's fogged up, you gotta do something to turn that fog, get rid of it. I mean, usually it's a heater or a defroster that happens, and that's what happens. But for us, what is it this Christmas that we can do to help people burn the fog off? And some of the Advent themes, waiting and peace and love and joy and hope and, faithfulness, whatever we decide to choose. Yeah. I think all those themes remind us that God is faithful. I just toyed with it a little bit yesterday. Yeah. To where I said, we need to wait. But and it was really later in the week I started thinking, God has been waiting. I think he's been waiting for a church like Suncoast to step up and embrace the true meaning of what Jesus came to do. Yeah. I think he's been waiting, but in his waiting for us is the word faithfulness. Yeah. He's always been there. He's always just waiting for us to get it, to see it, and we don't because we're fogged in. Yeah. I mean, they use the term in the airport, socked in. Socked in, yeah. And I did some, what does that mean? And they said that when you're at an airport and you're about to take off, there's a windsock. And if you can't see the windsock for the fog, then you can't depart, and it's called being socked in. So that's where that came from, which is clever. Yeah. And we can bring that out at some point in our teaching, but. So I don't want to be fogged in or socked in this Christmas. I want the light of Christ, the love of God, the light of the world to become so much a part of us that we focus on the light and the fog burns away. Yeah, that's good. That's the hope. That's the hope, man. That was like I told you in staff, like that message yesterday really spoke to me, and it spoke to a lot of people. Even talking with my mom, she watches every Sunday from Louisiana, and she's like, man, Pastor Larry was on fire this morning speaking to me. Because I think there's this, in our culture, I like the way you term, I've never heard it termed that way. Like we're in a culture of instant, like an instant culture. Mm-hmm. But in your point, you said waiting is not wasting. Mm. Like that's so countercultural because we feel if we're waiting, we are wasting. Like we have to be doing something. So what would you say to someone who feels like, man, God needs to be on my time. Like I have stuff to do. Like I need this healing now. I need this pain to go away now. I need this trauma to be dealt with now because I can't move forward out of this fog. Like what would you tell someone who feels like their timing is better than God's timing? Yeah. It's easy to say that, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Right. But sometimes where they are in the fog, you just need to go where they are and say, I understand. I'm so sorry, but just keep trusting. God is faithful. He's always there. I mean, we had that conversation last week with one of the ladies said, God took her daughter. Yeah. And I said, I don't think that's true. And I said, I think God caught your daughter. Yeah. I mean, when she slipped, she's in his arms. Yep. And, God doesn't take people, he catches them. Yeah. And I think that sometimes in our insistence of blaming God for all the things that happen to us, or our insistence that God's responsible for everything, or that God is so much in control of my life. And I go, but I think that God gave you a good mind and a good heart and a good life, and you're supposed to live it.
Yeah.
Now I think that when we lose our way, He is the homing beacon
Yeah.
that keeps us on track. To where I go, it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's about how can I use this adversity to show the world that God is still in me.
Yeah.
And how can I take this heartache and share with the world that, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you're with me.
Yeah.
And it's not that He takes me out of the valley of the shadow of death. He just walks with me through the valley. And that's true throughout humanity. And I mean, there's no one that's alive today that was alive 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 300 or 500. There is one consistency with humanity. We're all terminal in some measure.
Right.
We're all going to die.
That's right.
Now, you and I would like to live a little longer.
That's right.
So we try to be healthy and do the right things. But in so understanding that, when people face the reality of death, I think they truly live.
Yeah.
And that's really what needs to be said. But we live in an instant culture. Fix me instantly, correct me, take care of me. All those things I think are less than our best.
That's a golly, that speaks to me because, as a dad who lives far away from his kids, and I'm going to butcher this analogy, but I look to you for wisdom, not answers, but wisdom. Because most of the time, and I think our audience may know, like someone may come up to you for advice.
Right.
As pastors, they do this all the time. And I see like you and I are very similar. Like I don't give you any answers.
Right.
I kind of say, you have to wait and see. You're going to have to wait and see. You have to figure it out. You have to wait and see. And a lot of people just want that wisdom download from heaven. But you said in the sermon, you said that God's not in a hurry. We are. That God's not in a hurry. And with my children, like there's this thing in me that like I want them to immediately recognize the sacrifices I make for them, the love I have for them,
Right.
the time I want to spend with them. Like I want them to know, but following your lead, it's not my job to demand them to see what life is about. It's for me to show them that they can discover what life could be. And I don't remember much of what my dad or mom told me, but I remember what I saw.
Right.
And I think that's a big difference. The instant culture wants that, what I call that bumper sticker theology. We love those little tacit quotes.
Oh, sure.
Because they're sticky. But I think that's just part and parcel to our culture. But the real trust, the real faithfulness comes in that waiting, to where I could see, when I'm attuned to God, I could see how God is maneuvering this. And then I attune myself into that rhythm. Whereas if I'm hurrying up, like Steven, our drummer, if he's hurrying the song, he's out of rhythm with everyone else. And that I think would be a great series to do later on, is like the rhythms of the rhythms of wisdom, or the rhythms of grace, or the rhythms of God. Like, how do we find ourselves in that rhythm? And I think the hardest part is that waiting, because we demand instantaneous gratification. So when you say that, like, God's not in a hurry, like, as a philosopher, the first thing I think about, well, of course not, like, because he's eternal. But how is trust and waiting related?
I think they are absolutely connected. Or if you don't have trust when you wait, you live this very psychologically deficient life. I mean, if I'm waiting all the time and I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I'm trying to control everything, and I understand control because I like to manage a lot of things, and I've spent a lot of plates.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I realize I do the best I can, and but I think about God and the fact that He is in me. Mm-hmm. This concept of I've always been in union with God, and if there's something I could teach today, what does it mean to be in union with God? And that God has always been in me. He's always been a part of me. Mm-hmm. The parable of the lost son, he was always a son. And his father, he's right there, and the presence was so intimately and so close. He always loved his son, but his son decided something differently. Sometimes we as children of God, we decide differently, and we go our own way. But I think the Heavenly Father, the Spirit of God is always in us.
Yeah.
It's that Spirit that prompts us, hey, do you really want to eat pig food? It's that Spirit that prompts us, do you really want to do this? But this trusting, I think, is very important to waiting. I look at an oak tree. You know, we have oak trees on the property 100 years old. Mm-hmm. How long does it take God to grow an oak tree? And the oak tree says, oh, I'm just a sapling. I just came out of this acorn, and I want to be like that big guy right there. I want to be there now. And it's like, no, the rhythms of life, the rhythms of culture, the rhythms of rain and cold and growth, and there's a season of growth. And I think that when we can teach that in a more holistic way, to where God has always got your back.
Yeah.
God is faithful to you, and he's waiting on you and me to see the possibilities of a God-filled life. Mm-hmm. And he's waiting on us to say, just quit worrying about, the birds of the field. They neither, or the lilies of the field, they neither toil nor spin.
That's right.
I mean, how do we deal with that? And I think we worry, we fret, we try to get everything done. And at the end of the day, maybe we could breathe in and breathe out and say, God, you're with me today, and I want to be the best version of myself I can be. And I may not have all the material possessions that others have, but I know that I have the love of God. And at a certain stage of your life, your kids are in that great stage.
Yeah.
I mean, I call it the golden years.
Yeah.
To where they get up, they feed themselves, they brush their own teeth, they take care of themselves. Now they give you heck every now and then because they're, they're teenagers. But I think that every stage of life for your kids, and then let's get personal, and your stage of life at 48 years old, January 26th, becoming 49.
Yep.
Is that right?
That's right.
And,
That's right.
And my stage of life, which is, 67.
Yeah.
And I go, but I'm understanding more about God's presence in me. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the flippant answers I used to.
Yeah.
But I do understand if I can help people burn the fog off and let them see that God is in you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to walk this alone. You have to say, God, why aren't you doing this? That God is already there saying, let's work this together. Mm-hmm. Let's use good judgment. Don't overreact. Take it a day at a time. And I think we begin to grow and develop and become more Christ-like in who we are.
Man, that's really powerful, Pastor Larry. Very powerful. We were on the beach with the kids, and you could tell, like, Aslan was on her phone, kids were on their phone. And it was a beautiful sunset. And a little kind of cloudy, but when the sun hits those clouds, it
spectacular.
Reflects. And again, I thought of some things. I said, what can I do to just get them to connect? And I said, hey, everybody, phones down. And I said, do this with me. Let's breathe in 5 seconds, hold it 5 seconds, out 5 seconds. Let's breathe in 10 seconds, hold it, breathe out. And the whole dynamic of our little beach day, just me and my wife and my 3 kids, changed. After that little 1 minute breathing exercise, breathe in, breathe out, smile. Take in where you're at. We started playing volleyball together. We started running, and no one cared about the technology.
Right.
Everyone cared about God in that moment, which for me is the essence of life.
I agree.
And so, wonderful stuff, man. This is a great series. Can't wait for this weekend.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And as we keep pressing on toward the birth of Christ, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's going to be a great celebration. Christmas Eve, it's going to be fun. You hear a lot about it, but it's on Sunday this year, 10:30, 3, 4:30, and 6. 4 services for Christmas Eve. Go ahead and plan your calendar, set it up. Make it a family event. 45 minutes, fun, but also moving and candle lighting. It's one of the most unique experiences we have of the year. So we tell people, get ready. It's coming.
Here it is.
All right, but
awesome.
Thank you for all that you do and all that you are, and I'm grateful for you and the rest of the staff at Suncoast. I couldn't do it alone. No. I couldn't even come close, and the band is so amazing. We are so fortunate. Even here, we're sitting here today, and thanks to Kyle. He's not on the camera, but he can hear it. But thanks to Kyle for making this happen for us. So we are so blessed, and
that's right.
We need to pause and say thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Baucom.
Pleasure.